The Brutalist is a huge film, massive almost as much in construction as it is in length. Yet the story, more or less, remains completely focused on one figure. It is in many ways an intimate epic. I thought Adrien Brody's performance was startlingly good here. There's something about his eyes and face that can, when he's up to it, infuse any performance with such a degree of humanity and basically even sympathy that I was almost instantly invested in the wanderings of Laszlo Toth that we were about to witness. The supporting performances are all there with him, and I was glad to see both Felicity Jones and Guy Pearce nominated for their work on the film. The VistaVision, which could seem like a gimmick, truly looks gorgeous. I was instantly interested in seeing how the film would work upon hearing about the VistaVision, especially when I heard about the film's relatively small budget. In the initial moments of the film, though I was still taken by the footage, I felt I understood something about how this was pulled off. I thought, oh, they're just simply shooting whatever they can, and not showing what they can't, avoiding the majestic wides that the format might have suggested. However, as the movie went along, the sheer volume of beautiful, stirring footage is truly stunning to behold. And I found those initial impulses that I had fading away. I was very impressed by this. The film's cinematography and direction on a purely aesthetic level are stirring and quite impressive. With it, the editing is also something powerful to consider, never letting a scene simply sit or unfold the way one might assume. The score is also amazing, walking the knife's edge between bombast and despair perfectly. What then of the story? What of the themes? What is the film about? As many have said, where the first half certainly moves with the great weight of a classic American epic, the second slides into potential ambiguities and deferred payoffs, all while solidifying a deeply disturbing metaphor that is maybe, perhaps disappointingly, really that simple. The most clear reading of the film is obviously the exploitation of the immigrant by the American capitalist, the suffering of the artist whose work becomes hopelessly irrelevant before it can even be finished, largely thanks to the very wealth that caused it to exist in the first place. The question of art, and especially America, inseparable from the capitalistic ideas founded in its very founding, is a subject upon which many have made films, and The Brutalist could certainly be considered a powerful entry in that canon. And yet, as some have already said, after sifting through the scope of the film, through the various controversies, let alone its literal hefty runtime, is there not then unfortunately very little to grasp onto? Is the posturings at cinematic greatness too overreaching? Is this merely an impression, albeit a decently successful one, of greater filmmakers who have come before? Personally, I find myself of two minds. On the one hand, I agree with much of the criticism being leveled at the film, and I frankly felt some sadness when, after thinking about the film in the days since my screening, I found the ultimate idea of it to be fairly simplistic, even as it tries to mask its simplicity with greater, weightier aesthetics. Yet my other mind arrives once more to those same aesthetics. Can a film truly, as film criticism is so often to do, be separated from the very things that make the movie itself? Often when talking about a film, we are directed to look beyond the pomp and circumstance and experience that the film provides, in favor of a simpler theme or impact. Yes, the film has X, but you really should be focused on what it's saying. Many a film has been disregarded by this mechanism, and some rightfully so. However, what if The Brutalist had not been made with VistaVision? What if it had not starred Adrien Brody and Felicity Jones and Guy Pearce? What if it was not 3.5 hours long and did not have this specific framing and editing? Would its impact be stronger? Perhaps the fault might lie within its writing, and a tighter script could whip the film into better shape. There's no real way to know the answers to these questions. However, I find myself feeling in favor in what I think even constitutes praise of a film with such bold aesthetics. To disregard aesthetic choices in a film, searching for some overall meat, substance, or merit is to miss the language itself. Style creates flavor. In some ways, style is inseparable from flavor, which in turn is the sustenance of substance. The film is made greater by its style. The theme is then explored deeper because of its experience. The obtuse metaphor, perhaps successfully blunted. Another metaphor. A painting in an empty museum is still an active work of art. The lost sculpture at the bottom of the ocean, unseen by any but the creatures of the sea, is still a work of art. Yet films sitting on a shelf are not alive. The film lives only in the moment when it is encountered by the viewer. Greater even than theater before it, which can still live with no audience. To experience cinematic art requires viewing, requires presence, requires experience. The overall experience is the film. So ultimately, I am of two minds. I see the controversies and the criticism, and even agree with a few of them. However, I also found myself completely taken by the experience of watching The Brutalist, and have continued to sift it over in my mind since. So, to answer the question required of all film reviews, should you see The Brutalist? I have to say the answer is yes. Maybe. Absolutely. Definitely.